When will my marriage happen? That sounds like a simple question. A year, a month, perhaps even a date. But I am going to be blunt with you. Marriage timing is one of the most badly handled areas of predictive astrology because people want one answer from one planet, one transit, one dasha, or one convenient combination. Real marriage timing does not work like that. I do not look at Jupiter entering your 7th house and suddenly announce, you will marry this year. I do not see Venus becoming active and immediately declare that your spouse is arriving. I do not see Saturn and frighten you with words like delay, denial, curse, or permanent loneliness. That is not diagnosis. That is astrological guesswork. When you ask me, when will I marry, what year and what months, I first ask a deeper question. Is marriage actually promised strongly enough to manifest during the period being examined? Because a transit cannot manufacture an event that your deeper chart structure does not support. A dasha may activate desire without marriage. Venus may bring attraction without commitment. Rahu may bring obsession without stability. The 7th house may become active through a partnership, breakup, business alliance, legal contract, or intense relationship experience without producing an actual wedding. So before I give you a year, I must understand the architecture of relationship in your life. I begin with the birth chart, the D1. I examine the 7th house, the 7th lord, Venus, the Darakaraka, the 2nd house of family formation, the 4th house of settlement and domestic establishment, and the 1st 7th axis itself. Then I move to the Navamsha, the D9, because marriage is not merely an event. Marriage is a lived reality. The D1 may show that someone enters your life. The D9 tells me what happens when intimacy becomes real, daily, demanding, repetitive, human, and unavoidable. It tells me whether relationship becomes companionship, responsibility, sacrifice, emotional confrontation, stability, spiritual growth, distance, disappointment, or transformation. And this distinction is critical. Meeting someone is not marriage. Falling in love is not marriage. Sexual attraction is not marriage. Engagement is not marriage. Living together is not always marriage. Marriage is the actual consolidation of two lives into a sustained partnership structure. That is why I refuse to time marriage from one chart alone. I look for repetition. Does the 7th house speak? Does its lord speak? Does Venus speak? Does the Darakaraka speak? Does the Upapada speak? Does the Navamsha repeat the same story? Do the dashas activate those factors? Do Jupiter and Saturn open the structural window? Do the faster transits refine that window into months? When several independent factors converge, I become interested. When only one factor speaks, I remain cautious. Because real predictive astrology is not about collecting combinations. It is about identifying convergence. Suppose your 7th lord becomes active in Vimshottari dasha. That is important, but not enough. Suppose at the same time the subperiod activates Venus, the Darakaraka, a planet occupying the 7th house, the lord of the 7th from Venus, or a planet connected to the Upapada. Now the signal becomes stronger. Suppose a Jaimini Charadasha simultaneously activates the sign containing the Darakaraka, the 7th from it, the Upapada sign, or the Pada of the 7th lord. Now I'm paying serious attention. Suppose Yogini Dasha independently repeats the relationship activation. Now we are no longer looking at one isolated technique. We are looking at the chart beginning to speak in several languages at once. And that is where serious timing starts. I may use Vimshottari, Yogini, and Charadasha together because the purpose is not to force all three systems to say the same thing mechanically. The purpose is to see whether different time frameworks are pointing toward the same underlying event. A strong marriage period frequently activates the 7th house, the 7th lord, Venus, the Darakaraka, the Upapada, the 2nd from the Upapada, or relevant relationship factors in the D9. Many people do not want to hear. Not every relationship-producing period produces marriage. A Rahu-Venus period can produce overwhelming attraction, unconventional romance, foreign connections, obsession, glamour, sexual magnetism, social rebellion, or a relationship that feels destined precisely because it bypasses your rational judgment. But is it marriage? Maybe. Maybe not. Rahu-Venus can give the person you cannot stop thinking about while simultaneously making it difficult to see that person clearly. Rahu Moon can intensify emotional dependency, fantasy, anxiety, family complications, or a relationship formed under unusual circumstances. Rahu Saturn can create karmic heaviness, age differences, distant relationships, practical necessity, social pressure, unconventional commitments, or relationships marked by responsibility. Jupiter Venus can be highly supportive for relationship, union, celebration, and family formation when the chart context agrees. But no dasha should be treated like a vending machine where you insert a planetary combination and marriage falls out. I want repetition. I want structural support. I want the D1 to promise. I want the D9 to sustain. I want the Upapada to manifest. I want the dasha to activate. I want the transit to trigger. That is the diagnostic engine. Then comes the question everybody actually wants answered. Which year? For the year, I look first at the major and subperiod architecture. That gives me candidate windows. Then I examine Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is not simply the planet that gives marriage. That is too simplistic. Jupiter expands, legitimizes, guides, formalizes, and opens possibilities according to the areas it activates. In marriage timing, I examine whether Jupiter contacts the 7th house, 7th lord, Venus, Darakaraka, Upapada, 2nd house, 4th house, or other strongly established marital points. Saturn is equally important because marriage is not only romance. Marriage is structure, duty, repetition, time, obligation, social reality, and the carrying of another person's existence alongside your own. Venus may attract, Mars may pursue, the moon may need, Rahu may obsess, but Saturn asks the uncomfortable question, can you sustain this when desire is no longer enough? This is precisely why Saturn can delay marriage. Not always deny it, delay it. Saturn may say, not until you mature. Not until your career stabilizes, not until family responsibilities are handled, not until you understand boundaries, not until you stop chasing unavailable people, not until your concept of partnership becomes realistic rather than romantic fantasy. And sometimes Saturn gives later marriage because the person you become at 38 is actually capable of sustaining what the person you were at 25 would have destroyed. That is not punishment, that is timing. This is also why I separate early marriage, timely marriage, and delayed marriage. When benefic influence strongly supports the 7th house and its lord without serious affliction, marriage may happen relatively early. When both benefic and malefic influences exist, marriage may happen at a more conventional or mature age, especially when Venus remains reasonably supported. When the 7th house, 7th lord, and Venus are repeatedly afflicted, marriage may be significantly delayed, complicated, unconventional, or repeatedly interrupted. But I'm very careful with the word denial. Delay is common. Difficulty is common. Unconventional relationships are common. Separation is possible. Multiple relationships are possible. Celibacy or chosen non-marriage is possible. But absolute denial should not be thrown around casually because one planet occupies the wrong house. Real charts are contradictory because real human beings are contradictory. You can desperately want intimacy and simultaneously sabotage closeness. You can attract partners yet distrust them. You can be sensual yet emotionally unavailable. You can want marriage while unconsciously organizing your entire life to prevent another person from entering it. And astrology, when used deeply, reveals these contradictions. The 7th house does not merely describe your spouse, it describes the territory of the other, the person outside you, the one who challenges your autonomy, the one who exposes your projection, the one who refuses to exist merely as your fantasy. That is why the 1st-7th axis is so powerful. The 1st house says, this is me. The 7th says, now deal with someone who is not you. And when that axis becomes strongly activated through dasha and transit, relationship events can emerge rapidly. Introductions, proposals, partnerships, separations from unsuitable people, or the arrival of someone who fundamentally changes how you understand commitment. But again, a relationship appearing is not enough. For marriage, I also examine the 2nd house because marriage creates family continuity. I examine the 4th house because marriage often creates home, settlement, residence, and domestic reorganization. This is why periods of the 4th lord, or planets occupying the 4th house in the D1 or D9, can become relevant to marriage when other indicators agree. A wedding may occur because love has matured, but it may also coincide with moving house, immigration, buying property, changing cities, leaving the parental home, career relocation, family pressure, caregiving responsibilities, or the need to establish an independent household. This is where astrology becomes real. Marriage does not happen in an emotional vacuum. It happens inside careers, families, mortgages, visas, geography, aging parents, financial realities, social structures, sexuality, loneliness, ambition, and timing. Your spouse may enter through work, through travel, through friends, through social networks, through family, through education, through religious or spiritual settings, through technology, through an unconventional environment, through a sudden crisis, through a professional transition. The nature of the activated signs, houses, and planets tells me where the event is likely to emerge. A strong Venusian signature can bring attraction through art, finance, design, luxury, social life, beauty, food, creativity, or business. Mercury can bring someone through education, writing, communication, technology, trade, networking, or short travel. Mars can bring the spouse through engineering, property, medicine, military environments, competitive settings, emergencies, sport, or intensely goal-directed work. Jupiter may bring a teacher, advisor, lawyer, academic, spiritual person, institutional professional, or someone connected with education, policy, banking, or international experience. Saturn may bring someone older, serious, hardworking, professionally established, burdened with responsibility, emotionally reserved, from a distant background, or connected with industries involving large systems, machinery, infrastructure, and institutional work. Rahu can bring the foreigner, the unconventional partner, the person outside your social expectations, or someone met through technology, media, online networks, or unusual circumstances. And none of this is random storytelling. The sign modifies the expression. Aries intensifies action, speed, competition, and impulsive beginnings. Taurus seeks stability, loyalty, physical comfort, and material security. Gemini brings conversation, networks, curiosity, and duality. Cancer makes the relationship emotional, familial, protective, and security-oriented. Leo introduces pride, visibility, recognition, and strong identity. Virgo brings analysis, service, practical care, and sometimes excessive criticism. Libra naturally emphasizes partnership, fairness, attraction, and social harmony. Scorpio brings intensity, secrecy, sexuality, psychological transformation, and powerful attachment. Sagittarius seeks meaning, truth, travel, education, and philosophical alignment. Capricorn makes relationship practical, serious, responsibility-driven, and often slow to mature. Aquarius can make partnership unconventional, intellectual, technology-linked, friendship-based, or socially non-conforming. Pisces can make love devotional, compassionate, sacrificial, idealized, or difficult to contain within conventional boundaries. So when you ask, when will my marriage happen? I am also asking, what kind of person are you capable of choosing? What kind of person are you likely to attract? What does your emotional body need? What does your Venus desire? What does your seventh house demand? What does Saturn make you wait for? What does Rahu make you obsess over? What does Jupiter ask you to understand? And what part of yourself must change before a relationship can become sustainable? Because sometimes the marriage window appears, but you do not take it. Sometimes the person appears and you reject them. Sometimes you choose career. Sometimes fear wins. Sometimes family interferes. Sometimes geography separates you. Sometimes an existing relationship has to die before the actual marriage cycle can begin. A dasha creates a field of probability and experience. It does not turn you into a puppet. And once the candidate year is established, I narrow the timing. Jupiter can help identify the broader year. Saturn can confirm whether the structural conditions are mature. The Sun can help refine the month by activating key marriage signs, lords or Navamsha factors. The Moon can become the final fast trigger, particularly when the broader timing architecture is already established. Mars and Venus transits may add immediate attraction, meetings, pursuit, sexual activation, decisions, and ceremonial movement, especially when they touch the first, fourth, or seventh houses, their lords, Venus, or other established marriage points. The annual chart can answer another vital question. Is this particular solar year actually capable of producing marriage? Because a strong dasha may last several years. Jupiter may give a broad window. But the annual chart can show whether this is the year of actual formalization or merely the year of meeting, deciding, proposing, separating from the wrong person, or preparing for commitment. Then the month is refined, and only after the year and month are strongly supported would I even consider narrowing toward weeks or specific dates. This is the hierarchy. First, establish whether marriage is promised. Then understand whether it is early, timely, delayed, unconventional, or seriously obstructed. Then identify candidate dasha periods. Then cross-check those periods through multiple timing systems. Then examine Jupiter and Saturn for the year. Then use the annual chart and faster transits to narrow the month. Then, and only then, consider the moon or a carefully judged prashna for the smallest window. That is how I answer, when will my marriage happen? Not with one transit, not with one yoga, not with fear, not with fantasy, not with fake certainty. I look for the same event repeating through independent layers of the chart, because the strongest predictions are repetitive. The D1 says relationship. The D9 says marriage. The Upapada says manifestation. The seventh lord becomes active. Venus becomes active. The Darakaraka becomes active. The dashas converge. Jupiter opens the year. Saturn stabilizes the structure. The annual chart confirms. The sun narrows the month. The moon triggers the moment. That is when I stop saying marriage is possible, and I begin saying this is your real marriage window. And the deeper value of a marriage reading is not merely knowing whether the answer is September 2027, February 2029, or another period entirely. The real value is knowing why that window opens, what kind of person is likely to enter, how you may meet, what emotional pattern the relationship activates, whether the bond is likely to stabilize, what may delay it, what may sabotage it, and what you need to understand before the opportunity arrives. Because knowing a date without understanding your own relationship pattern can be almost useless. You can know that rain is coming and still leave every window open. You can know that love is approaching and still destroy it through fear, pride, obsession, projection, indecision, workaholism, unrealistic standards, or attachment to somebody who is never going to stay. This is why I treat marriage astrology as a diagnostic art before I treat it as predictive timing. The chart must tell me not only when somebody comes, but who you become when somebody comes close. That is the raw question. Because your marriage is not merely hidden inside the person you are going to meet. It is hidden inside the person you will be when you meet them. And when your inner maturity, planetary periods, relationship promise, and external timing finally converge, life can move very quickly. A stranger becomes familiar. A conversation becomes significant. A professional contact becomes personal. A friendship crosses a line. A family introduction suddenly works. A journey changes everything. A person from another culture enters. An old relationship returns under radically different circumstances, or the person you already know suddenly becomes the person you are ready to choose. That is the mystery of timing. The planets do not merely bring people. They activate your readiness to experience those people in a particular way. So, when will your marriage happen? The honest answer is not found in a generic zodiac forecast. It is found in the precise convergence of your D1, D9, 7th house, 7th lord, Venus, Darakaraka, Upapada, family and home indicators, multiple dasha systems, Jupiter and Saturn transits, annual activation, and the final faster planetary triggers. That is where the year emerges. That is where the months emerge. That is where the real story emerges. And when the chart speaks clearly enough, I will tell you directly. This is the period to watch. This is the strongest year. These are the most active months. This is the likely nature of the person. This is how the relationship may enter your life. And these are the psychological and practical conditions that can either turn that opportunity into marriage or make you miss it completely. So if you want a marriage reading that actually works for you, not a generic promise, not fear-based astrology, not a random transit prediction, get in touch with me. Bring your birth details, bring your real questions, bring your doubts, your relationship history, your fears, your hopes, and the patterns you do not fully understand. And let us look at the chart without fantasy, without judgment, and without pretending every difficult combination is a curse. Because sometimes you are not blocked. Sometimes you are simply early. Sometimes you are not denied marriage. You are being prepared for a different kind of partnership. And sometimes the most important question is no longer merely, when will I marry? It is, when the real marriage window finally opens, will I recognize the person, the moment, and the version of myself capable of saying yes?